Trump has shaved 4 points off Clinton's 10-point lead earlier this month. All this comes as Trump delivers a major speech on immigration tonight. Earlier today, the GOP nominee made an unexpected trip to Mexico to meet with that country's president. Chief political correspondent Carl Cameron has the latest tonight from Phoenix.
Mexicans are just beyond reproach.
Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton were both invited to Mexico last Friday by President Enrique Peña Nieto. Trump got there first and fast and called it a very productive meeting.
I shared my strong view that NAFTA has been a far greater benefit to Mexico than it has been to the United States, and that it must be improved upon, ending illegal immigration. Not just between our two countries, but including the illegal immigration and migration from Central and South Americans.
Trump got the treatment he'd hoped for, a joint appearance on the international stage. The Mexican president, who compared Trump's rise to Hitler and Mussolini, was diplomatic.
We may not agree on several issues, but your presence here, Mr. Trump, shows a fundamental coincidence. Our countries are very important. I fully believe that the NAFTA has been good, both for the United States as well as for Mexico.
Nieto acknowledged that Trump's rhetoric has often offended Mexicans.
I had also voiced the grievances that we had felt in Mexico because of the statements that had been issued.
Trump accepted the Mexican invitation in part to hype his big speech tonight in Phoenix, Arizona, clarifying his immigration reform goals, on which for several weeks Trump's appeared to be wavering. Aides say the meeting had a more broad agenda.
Obviously, illegal immigration, but also trade, also drugs flowing over the border. And it's very important to show that you're willing to work with a neighboring country before you're president.
Trump's harsh rhetoric has caused alarm in Mexico. Former President Vicente Fox voiced it bluntly this morning.
Well, let me tell you, he is not welcome to Mexico. By 130 million people, we don't like him, we don't want him, we reject his visit.
Trump quit to Mexico today, also invited me when he apologized for using the wall. And Donald Trump and the current Mexican president did talk about the wall, but not who was going to pay for it. That's one of the unanswered questions that we expect to get more enlightenment on in tonight's speech here in Phoenix, which has a much, much bigger spotlight on it tonight, Chris, because of Trump's trip to Mexico this afternoon.
Carl, thank you. Let's take a moment to trace the evolution of Donald Trump's thinking on immigration, taking us on that journey.
Under the subject line called the declassification date, which means the full email can be public 10 years from the day it was sent, again suggesting it was classified at that time. The State Department insists tonight that marking has no bearing on when it was classified, and the Clinton campaign said it's investigating the matter, Chris.
Catherine, thank you.
You're welcome.
Last night was a good one for the Republican Party establishment. Two senators facing primary challenges won and moved on to the November election. And as Chief National Correspondent Ed Henry reports, that boosts GOP chances of holding on to its Senate majority.
Republicans have been panicking that if Hillary Clinton keeps her lead over Donald Trump, GOP control of the Senate could also be lost. Though even Democrats admit there are now some signs of hope for Senator Mitch McConnell to keep the title of Majority Leader.
The Republicans have their incumbents have performed well, and they had some important wins in the race.
In the key battleground of Ohio, Republican Rob Portman has solidified his position enough that liberal and conservative groups have largely stopped pouring money into his race with Democrat Ted Strickland. And in one of those primary battles, Florida last night, Marco Rubio won by over 50 points, giving the GOP more confidence about keeping his seat after he rethought plans to retire this summer.
I just couldn't be at peace with the idea that we were going to not just potentially lose the Senate seat, but lose the balance of power in the Senate at this critical moment in our nation's history.
A sharp departure from 2010, when Republicans missed a shot to take control of the Senate by fielding controversial Tea Party candidates like Christine O'Donnell in Delaware and Sharon Angle in Nevada, who lost badly. Still, there are danger signs for Republicans amid the party's split over Trump. Even in Arizona, where John McCain survived the toughest primary battle of his career, he immediately stressed he would be a thorn in the side of a President Trump or a President Clinton.
We must be able to resist from a position of strength ideas coming from the next White House, whoever occupies it, that would take the country in the wrong track.
If Democrats flip 4 Republican seats, there will be a 50-50 Senate. And coupled with a Clinton win, a vice president...
Judges, the Supreme Court, she will be unchecked. No one will hold her accountable.
The possibility Clinton will get several Supreme Court picks is something that could motivate conservatives to turn out not just for Senate races, but also to help Trump against Clinton. Chris?
Ed, thank you. Can vote early. The justices denied a request by Republican Governor Pat McCrory and state officials to delay an injunction blocking provisions of the 2013 voting law. The decision means voters will not have to show one of several qualifying photo IDs when casting ballots. And early voting also goes back to 17 days. The people in charge of making sure you and your family...
We recognize and respect the right of either country to build a physical barrier or wall on any of its borders to stop the illegal movement of people, drugs, and weapons.
Donald Trump and Mexican President Peña Nieto after their meeting today, and let's bring in our panel. Steve Hayes from the Weekly Standard, Amy Walter of the Cook Political Report, Fox News media analyst and host of Fox's Media Buzz, Howard Kurtz, and syndicated columnist Charles Krauthammer. Well, Charles, it seems to me that Trump was taking quite a risk today holding this meeting with the Mexican president with so little preparation. Peña Nieto could have roasted him, but in fact it was respectful, it was diplomatic, and it put Trump on the international stage. Do you think it'll help him?
Yes. He took a risk and he pulled it off. Look, the big negative about Trump, the thing that the Clinton campaign plays on, is the fact that it's hard to imagine him as president. Being presidential is the thing he's been trying to do. His staff has been trying to get for him for the last 6 months. Now here he is standing on the world stage with a world leader. This is a big step. He not only held his own, I think in some ways, he sort of dominated. The Mexican president was rather defensive, asking for respect. Trump, I thought, spoke well. And then if you noticed at the very end when they took questions, it was Trump who took charge. He's sitting in the palace of the president of Mexico. This never happens. Normally, it's the host who picks the journalist. Trump took charge naturally, walked off the stage as the dominant guy. He pulled it off. I think he really helped himself.
I'm going to ask the control room, put up the still picture that I asked for, because it seems to me that this is one of the big takeaways from this meeting today. Maybe, there it goes. And it seems to me that this is kind of worth its weight in gold, Steve. I mean, there you have President Peña Nieto, and as Charles says, almost like an equal, Donald Trump on a presidential stage. Interestingly enough, after the meeting, in the news conference, Trump said that, yes, they discussed the wall. They did not discuss how to pay for it. On the other hand, I will tell you that the presidential spokesman for Peña Nieto just put out word that, in fact, the Mexican president told him that Mexico would not pay for it. Having said all of that, your reaction to the meeting today?
I agree with Charles. I think this is actually the single best day of the general election campaign for Donald Trump, because, as Charles said, I mean, this was Hillary Clinton's goal, was to otherize Donald Trump. Remember, in the early stages of the general